What's up, everybody? I'm David McGill. Now, a question that I get asked all the time is how and also why did I get started in the trucking industry as an accountant? And I just figured I'd shoot this video and explain the situation to anybody else out there who, may be wondering the same thing. Now, in order to, truly paint the picture, I'm gonna have to take y'all back to my childhood, so that way I can explain to you and you can see different things that have, molded my thinking growing up to what ultimately shaped a lot of my, thinking and thought processes today. So I'm originally from New Orleans, Louisiana, and I come from a family of roofers. Like, my daddy was a roofer, a lot of my uncles are roofers, and I have an uncle, one of my uncles, he's actually the owner of a commercial roofing business. His name is Ronnie. And, fun fact about me and Ronnie's relationship is he's actually my second cousin on my mother's side, and he's my uncle on my daddy's side. Now, if you can figure out how that's legally possible, and let me know in the comment section. If you get it right, you'll get a grand prize of nothing, but I think it'll still be fun to just read some of the responses. But anyway, Ronnie was the owner of the commercial roofing company, and as a kid I would go out to the job sites and I would see he have so many people working for him, and I was just always impressed by that because he really just kind of ran the whole show. He was finding the jobs, and he was really just directing traffic, on the job sites. And as a kid, I asked him one day, like, how did you get to the point where you owned your own business? And he told me that he wanted to take a vacation with my aunt and his kids, and at his job at the time, they didn't approve his vacation. And then they did something like funny with his check or something like that, to where he just ended up quitting and starting his own company. Fast forward to, by the time I'm in the picture, and I'm old enough to understand what's going on, I'm seeing everybody work for him, and I'm also seeing on like Thursday nights him splitting up, everybody's paychecks so that they could, get paid on Friday. And it was just always cool to me. And I remember he would play this game with me and his son, my other cousin, and where he would come in and he have like the biggest bankroll I ever seen in my life. I mean, huge, probably like $1 million in his hand, easily. And he would say, if y'all can guess, he would give me and my cousin a guess. He would say, if y'all can guess how much is in this in my hand, you can have it. And so I might guess something like 2,500, and my cousin might guess 3,200, and he's standing there and he counted, and it might be like $10,000. Now, at the time, in the mid 90s, we 10, 11, 12 years old. Like, that was a lot of money. It's a lot of money now, but as a 12-year-old seeing that kind of money, it just, I don't know, I was impressed by it. And as we got older, he told me the reason why he used to do that to us when we were kids was because he wanted us to see that you could have a lot of money and you don't have to do anything illegal to get it. So he was basically just trying to teach us a lesson and instill in us that we didn't have to be impressed by a lot of the things that like drug dealers and stuff like that in the neighborhood. We had something different to work towards. So I always liked that about him. And also during this time I was a big basketball fan. I still am. And I remember I don't know if it was like 97, 96, 97, Kevin Garnett, he had signed like $126 million contract with the Minnesota Timberwolves. And I was watching this news with my other uncle, my godfather, my parrain. And I remember I told my parrain, he's an Air Force guy. You know, he was retired from the Air Force, so he's real serious. He says what he means, and you know, he gets his point across pretty well. And I remember when that news came out, I told my parent, I said, dang, parent, I was like, Kevin Garnett, he just signed for $126 million. Like, he's rich. Can you believe that? That's crazy. He's rich. And he looked at me straight face and said, well, if Kevin Garnett is getting paid $126 million, imagine how much money the person writing the check is, how much money he has. And when he said that, I was just kind of like, damn. Like, I was in shock. I didn't really know what to think. I was just, you know, it just threw me off. So you couple that conversation with the things that I saw, you know, from Ronnie and being his own boss, it really just kind of molded my thinking that I needed to have my own business at some point in my life. Fast forward, I moved to Indianapolis in the 8th grade, and the apartment complex we lived in, you know, I had a lot of friends. One of them was my boy Stan. Shout out to Stan Burrell. And we would always hang out at his next door neighbor's house because they were like families. They were like family. Him, his family, and the neighbors. And so we were hanging out over there one day after school, and one of the neighbor's daughters walked in, and she had just came home from school, and she was a couple years older than us, and she had a green book that had a gold dollar sign on it, and like the book just caught my attention. So before I left that evening, I asked her, I was like, what's that? What book is that? And she said, oh, this is for my accounting class. I'm like, all right, what's accounting? What's that about? And she said, in that class, we talk about you know, how to keep track of money and counting money and stuff like that. So, you know, instantly I was like, oh, I need to take that class. So by the time I got to high school, you know, I took those classes, and then I went on to college to major in accounting. And the reason why I majored in accounting was I had learned that accounting is considered the language of business. So basically, you can't have an in-depth business conversation without using accounting terms. So even though I didn't know what kind of business I wanted to start eventually, I knew that I ultimately wanted to have my own business. I couldn't be a roofer because it was hot, and plus I'm scared of heights. So I knew I wasn't going to start a roofing company, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. So my thought process was, I'll go and I'll learn accounting, so then when I start my own company, I don't need to hire an accountant, and I'll understand the numbers myself. And in the meantime, while I'm trying to figure out what business I want to start, I could just go work as an accountant. I could just get a job, since every company has an accounting department. So, you know, fast forward 2007, you know, I graduated from college, and I started working as an accountant. In 2012 or 13, I think it was 12, a friend of mine started a construction company, and he wanted me to, you know, do his bookkeeping and taxes. So outside of my 9 to 5, he was my first accounting client. A few years later, I think it's probably like 2016 or so, he reached out to me. He let me know that he had a referral that some guys he knew had started a trucking company, and they needed an accountant. So they were gonna reach out to me. So I ended up meeting them. We hit it off. Things went well. They explained to me what they were trying to do and what they needed help with. So, you know, I agreed that I would come on board, you know, as their accountant. I'd help them out, getting a lot of their accounting and taxes and things like that together. And because they were new to trucking, I also had to get familiar with a lot of the regulations, DOT compliance, a lot of things like that. So I got pretty well versed in the whole, the federal regulations and things like that. Now, what a lot of people don't know is when you work in corporate accounting, you have a pretty good sense on how the operations and the sales, how that impacts the bottom line, because you are, you working with the numbers every day, so you understand like how a change here or a change there impacts the bottom line. So just throughout my career, I became pretty good at processes and operations. So being able to apply that to the trucking company that I was helping out with, I was able to, really get some things in place to help them grow pretty quickly. And one day we were having lunch, and one of them had jokingly said, "Oh man, you should start your own trucking company. Like, you pretty much helped us, get this far. Like, you should go ahead. You know everything about it already. Just go ahead and start your own." And I didn't think anything of it. And a part of the reason why I didn't is because a few months prior to that conversation, I had bought a daycare. So I was working my job. I had, accounting clients on the side, and then I also owned a daycare that was, staffed. So the thought of, I thought, starting a trucking company, that'd be crazy. And then one day I was like, you know what? Because they said it again. And the more I got to thinking about it, I was like, well, shit, I don't know what exactly I want to do, like, long term. And I do know a lot about what's going on with the trucking industry, so why not? So I went ahead and, and started the trucking company. And I was working my job and running those other businesses, and also, launching a trucking company. So basically, it was never in my plans to start a trucking company. It's just from a series of different relationships, it just led me into the direction to where I was working with a trucking company, and I got pretty good at it. So then it just naturally made sense for me to start my own company. Now, in a future video, I talk a little bit more on how I was able to manage all of that stuff at one time. Hopefully that that answers the question on how and why I got started in the trucking industry as an accountant. So hopefully this video answers the question, and if you like this video, go ahead and give me a thumbs up and let me know in the comment section.